Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
You're here, I'm pleased. I really dig your company. Your style, your smile, your peace mentality. Lord have mercy on me. I was blind, now I can see what a king's supposed to be. Baby, I feel free. Come on and go with me, and let's take a long walk around the park after dark. Find a spot for us to spark conversation, verbal elation, stimulation. Share our situation, temptations, education, relaxation, elevations. Maybe we can talk about Revelations 3:17. Your background, it ain't squeaky clean, but sometimes we all gotta swim upstream. You ain't no saint, we all are sinners, but you put your good foot down and make your soul a winner. I respect that, man, you're so fat.
Hey, good morning, good morning. I was about to sing my way right into you today. Man, you're so fat and you're all that. Jill Scott knows she was writing that song, and that's why I decided to cover it and put it on my album. It was one of the most exciting moments in my life when I recorded my first album, If You Ask Me To, and that song made it to it. So talking about feeling great this morning, which I do, I'm excited. We have a great guest coming into the studio today to chat it up and talk about jazz, music promotion, being in the business. He's a veteran advocate, yada, 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 yada. Laurence Smith, what can I say with the Jazz Lab? He's that guy. And I want to stop in this moment and reflect over this past weekend and what's been going on, and just send my sincerest condolences to the Jackson family for the loss of their giant. Reverend Jackson, Jesse Jackson, was a phenomenal world figure. I remember when I was younger hearing about him going over to fight for the freedom of people who were imprisoned and had been detained in prison. I think it was in the Arab countries. And if I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't have my facts right on that, but I decided to speak on it because it's what came into my head this morning as I opened up, that these are the things that I remembered about Jesse Jackson well before I ever got a chance to meet him. For those of you who are just coming here, I want to just say welcome in, welcome in. I'm Senabella. I am your host. I'm a little ahead of myself because I have so much on my heart, but you're welcome, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. For those of you who are coming in the room and you are my coffee breakers, you know that I just love having you here. And so good morning to you. Good morning to you. Hey, Jay. Hey, cousin Deborah. Good morning, beautiful cousin. Yes, it's good to see you. So back to what I was saying about, Jesse Jackson. He is one of those people that will be unforgettable because he stayed in the news. He was a Chicago in the news person who was all over the world and really made us feel connected. We felt like something was going on with him. He says, say it loud. He said, I am somebody. I am somebody. We had all of these wonderful kinds of memes and things that were created for us to follow and to just rejuvenate us and to give us some enlightenment and lift us up and make us feel like we could go somewhere. And so he was putting down those footprints, and there were others who were doing the same, but he had the kind of energy, and he was handsome, and he could speak well. Coming from the South, he had that Southern charm. And so Jesse was somebody that you couldn't ignore. You couldn't ignore. And he wouldn't allow himself to be ignored. He ran for president twice. Operation Breadbasket. That was like a big deal, and feeding people, advocating for them. And I believe he even influenced others like Al Sharpton to get into the game. You know, there were a lot of people trying to figure out how to get in the game. We had tremendous leaders in our community who were coming about doing things and making us understand that there was a fight going on for the freedom and the justice of all mankind. And so I salute his life, and I say to you all, good morning. Let's all stop for a moment and just take a breath in. And I'm going to sing my little song because I want us to all feel like that this morning. Because I want to wake up feeling beautiful. 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 Feel beautiful, 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 beautiful. I salute you, Queen Jackson, and I'm here with you, there with you. We're all with you. So, how y'all doing? I'm getting people coming in the room. They're saying good morning. I'm saying good morning and good morning, John. My sweetheart is here in the room, and he says, rest in peace to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And please go ahead and if you'd like to add something that you'd like to put in text to share with us as your thoughts are about Reverend Jesse Jackson this morning, please add those and I'll be happy to put them on camera for display. Now, in the meantime, how have you been doing? Because there's been a lot going on, right? And as you see, I have at the bottom of the screen, I have an event coming up myself that I'm promoting. And yeah, it takes a lot to be in this business. And this guy that we have coming on this morning, this man that we have coming on this morning, this here iconic radio jazz figure we have coming on this morning, this promoter that we have coming on this morning, he's going to just chat it up about all of that. And don't you want to really kind of understand what the inside stories are about what goes on to make people have to sit and wait and to just become more visible, to be in this here community of jazz and music? Well, he's going to tell us all that. So let me see if I have anything that I want to just go to before I bring him on stage. And I just want to say one more time, I love you. I love you. I love you. It looks good. So ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, coffee breakers and all, I'm going to welcome to the stage, Laurence Smith. Good morning, Laurence.
Good morning. Good morning, Queen. How are you?
Excellent. It's good to see you.
Good to be seen. Good
now, you look like you way back now. Can you get closer into the camera?
Okay, sure.
There we go. You know what I really enjoy about seeing you whenever I see you is that you're not afraid to wear colors.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You that brother that's going to put some colors on, and you're a tall figure, too. So it's not like you some little guy. So when you're walking around with a color on, and it's as rich as your skin and the way that your personality is, it really shows up. So you look great.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You look elegant as well.
Elegant. Okay. I'll take all that.
Morning elegance. Morning elegance.
Yes, sir. Yes. You know, it takes a little bit. I'm still a chick. We do our little magic morning stuff. And you know, I used to say, oh, I woke up like this.
Yes, yes.
I woke up like not. And you know what's so funny about aging is that you reflect back on when you were younger and you never thought about whether you were like not waking up beautiful.
Right.
You know, you just woke up and you were yourself and you kept going, and that energy is what propelled you to go forward. So just really quickly, John Izzy says, rest in peace to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what are some of your thoughts as we come into this here reality that Jesse Jackson has left the stage? And who do you see, if anyone, that will kind of fill that space? And is there space for new Jesse Jacksons?
It should be a lot of people that should feel that, because there's no such thing as a one black leader. It should be leadership. It should be a council of elders. because we have different personalities and different types of people. So
Mhm.
there should be a council that reflects the different viewpoints of all of us, because all of us as individuals have our own perspectives on our lives, on our families' lives, and the world, period. So I think we should just really more so have a counselor instead of just
Mhm.
a black leader. Um, the reason why I say that is I grew up behind Black Panther headquarters. So when Fred Hampton got killed and the powers that be, they looked at our culture and had a viewpoint of if we kill off the head, we'll kill off the body. So we should have multiple heads. So that way, if one gets struck down, everybody else can make all the positional movements to stay protected. So that way, this movement can continue to go forward.
That's interesting that you say counselor. Good morning, Grand Rising, beautiful Deborah. Move around with Deborah. She's one of my broadcast mates here on Female Solution. She says, Grand Rising, beautiful. And I'm going to take that to mean both you and I. Hey, we both beautiful. Reverend Jesse Jackson would also talk about the love he has and we should have. Think about it. So he was promoting love, something that we know is one of the highest vibrations and inspirations a person can have, right?
True.
And then John Izzy says his presidential run will be what I'll remember him for. Keep hope alive. My first introduction to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. The first time I'd ever seen someone like me do something like that. And he's young. And the reason I know is because he's my son. You know, children always surprise you at what they know, what they've been paying attention to, right?
Yes.
So I think if my children were to come and talk about me, they would talk about how I would scramble them out the bed and make them go over to Operation Push to meet Nelson Mandela, right? They would talk about those kind of things. So that's advocating. That's in action. Black families were more inclined to get behind our leaders at that time in a way
Yes.
that was like institutional, as opposed to, oh, did you hear him on the news, right?
Right.
And so what do you see different in that regard today as it relates to Black advocacy supporting the words of those who are out here fighting on the ground for us? Or and who are some of those people that you think really are fighting on the ground for us?
Well, I'm 68. So there are a lot of things that I remember out of the 60s. Um, like I said, Fred Hampton and the Soto brothers, looked that up. There were two Puerto Rican brothers that got killed within a week of each other. Their father was a community activist, and the powers that be again sent a message to the father that, we still think that we can control this, even though they didn't.
Mhm.
But the 60s were a time where they were attacking a lot of our Black leadership because, okay, you're talking about Malcolm, Medgar Evans, um, Shuttleworth. So, Shuttleworth, they don't really talk about him enough, Red Shuttleworth.
I was just even surprised you saying his name just now. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So there was a lot of Black leadership that was doing magnificent things all over the country. And again, the powers that be, they made a concerted effort to make sure that we lost all this leadership because they didn't want a united front.
Mm.
Because once we got united, and the one thing that made Fred so wonderful was he united the Latinos, he united the poor whites,
Mhm.
the disenfranchised. Because long as they were sitting up there thinking that it was a black thing, they were going to let them live. But the moment that he was doing a united front, he had to disappear. And
How did the impact of the Black Panthers, the Muslim community, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad. How did those things, there was like a hotbed of activism on the ground.
Oh man. Oh yes. Yes.
It was in our music.
Yes.
And so from the contemporary stand of music, what was the music that was heading the charge?
Curtis Mayfield. If you remember all the stuff that Curtis was writing, We're a Winner.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
My big brother used to, we're a winner.
that's right.
I wish we had that song I played. Oh my God. That's a great one.
You know, We're a Winner. That album where he had the yellow walking suit. I'm from the other side of town. Um, Curtis spoke to the environment. Curtis spoke to the temperature of the room. Um, it was, like I said, it was a lot of great music. Donny Hathaway was writing great music. Marvin, had to fight through Berry Gordy to, release the music that he wanted to release. Because remember, after him and Tammy Terrell, when Tammy Terrell died, he went more into talking about the political structure.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, for a lot of our Black leaders at that time, they wanted to be comfortable. But for us to start what Gil Scott Heron said, the revolution will not be televised,
Mm-hmm.
you can't be comfortable, even now.
Even though as you speak of this, even while you speak of it, I think about today on the ground, the supportive music and poetry, spoken word.
Oh yeah.
Even the gospel has transformed into activism to the degree in which it can, right? And
But
so
it had to.
music plays a critical role in it. Let's right here just want to acknowledge Dr. Lateef. In the 1960s, leadership rose from the youth. Reverend Jackson rose to leadership in Greensboro, age 18. Who are the young leaders among us today? That's a good question. Who do you see as young leaders among us today? If nothing but local, if you don't know anything, know of a name nationally that you would point out.
Well, I'm not familiar with a lot of the up and coming, but RZA, he's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing, and he's making the structure uncomfortable, as he should, because when you speak to the powers that be, you got to hold their feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
We have too many people, and he even said it. We have too many rich Blacks that sign their souls away with their checks because they're not underwriting the movement per se.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, let's go back to Aretha, which underwrote the civil rights movement. Sam Cooke underwrote the civil rights movement. That's why they got rid of Sam, because Sam, he had all the rights to his music. So that's why he was able to underwrite.
You know what? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had all his rights to his music. So a change is going to come.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
I would love to do the history on what happened with his family. That's another thing. How do we embrace the families of those who created all of this phenomenal messaging for us? Where are they? What are they doing? Hey, anybody know anything? Kind of give us some information here. But JJ says, it feels like activism has faded. The younger generation doesn't seem to care about these things. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the trauma of it, because I'll give you a prime example. By the time I was 13, I thought that anyone that was Black and influential was going to die. So there was a period in my life that I toned myself down because I wasn't ready to die, for my activism.
But times were really just, if there was things that were amiss then around violence and the perpetuation of pushing us down, it was so engrossed. It was then. So what would make people less prone to be, as what JJ say, more activated, given that the violence is not different? Actually,
it's the same. If anything, is worse.
You think the violence is worse now than it was
Yes.
for our parents?
The reason why I'm saying that is the 80s, and I'm talking about Chicago now, the 80s ushered in um, a period where we as a culture, we got lazy. There
Mhm.
was no real activism in the 80s and the 90s. And then when the drug culture hit, which I talk about, the crack era. When the crack era hit Chicago, I'll never forget it. It was 1983, the summer of 83. I was working at was Chase now, but when it was First National Bank of Chicago, that was my first job when I came back out of the Air Force. And I used to work on the ATM machines. I used to balance what these are called the audit rolls back then. And prior to the drug culture, remember we had a lot of black professionals that worked at the light company, the gas company, the phone company. Because remember when you used to go pay your phone bill and go to ComEd and get your light bulbs after you paid your little light bill. When that crack hit, all of a sudden now you have to take a drug test. That wasn't happening before, but who were in those positions? A lot of black professionals were in those positions.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. This is really a bigger conversation that I prepared for, but I'm so glad we're in it. I just want to kind of go back to what she was saying earlier, Lawrence. Please forgive me. I hope I don't make you
Oh
lose.
no, no, go ahead.
But Asada says D1 is behaving like a leader and using hip hop as a vehicle. He is challenging the status quo there and speaking against hypocritical hop that glorifies crime against ourselves. It's like such a big thing, Asada, because hip hop has been utilized to demonstrate, just in a very demonstrative way, to one, say our children are violent, that their messaging is wrong. And while there was and is a lot of wrong in how the messaging perpetuated out of hip hop was not born to be a violent natured kind of music. And would I be right on that from your perspective, Lawrence?
Absolutely, because you got to remember when hip hop first came out, it was about information, it was about awareness, black awareness. But the powers that be were not going to promote that. So long as they used the B word and and our women were bees and hoes and degrading and they were going to promote that. They were
Well,
going to.
that was like one of the biggest things. I remember 50 Cent and all of them were out there early on, and it really did become a big deal. But it was like doing the bump was like this invigorating kind of moving spiritual kind of song, doing the bump, dun, 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 right? But it moved from that, and all of a sudden one day women were bitches. Excuse my language.
Yeah. No. But you got to remember
Men,
who ushered that in.
and they were
Remember the dirty South.
and young blacks were trying to keep the word Negro or NIG, the nig, into perspective, like owning it like it was a positive. And so I remember the 90s.
But the powers of the be did that because they did an actual um document. That's what I was trying to think. Documentary. They did a documentary on Luke Skywalker and all those guys that brought in that stuff from when University of Miami football team, remember they were calling them thugs and stuff like that. And then that was when you first started seeing the black misogyny.
When you said Luke Skywalker, I had to go back and forth. I'm like, oh, you mean Luke Skywalker hip hop?
There you go.
Right.
The guys out of Florida.
Right.
So that was the beginning of the black misogyny, because that's when you started seeing all the the young black women and revealing or very little clothing, and it was okay to be bees and hoes, and that started perpetuating it because now they got totally away from black awareness, black education, talking about leadership. Remember that video they made, self-destruction?
Yeah. Because a lot of young people were being signed to these big, huge, massive deals.
There you go.
They were walking away from their contemporaries to be stars. It would be like the first time the thrust that throwing that money at our youth was coming so rapidly.
Well,
And
I'll
then
put
when
it to
it
you
was
like this:
out,
if you came out of extreme poverty, like
mhm,
a lot of those young people were coming out of, especially down south, it's an economic structure. So if they can run into young men that had a talent to be able to rap, they threw that money at him, but they said you're going to have to rap on our terms. So take this $100,000, and you got to remember, out of that era, that was a lot of money for somebody that had nothing.
it's always a
So
lot of money because we've always had nothing. Either we step into things with our pants pulled up and a belt on and understand what we're doing and won't be swayed by this persuasion of money and stardom, and we're really in it to activate messaging and to provide leadership to our people, and that no matter what your platform is, or we're not in it. And when I say we, that means all across all cultures. There's the dynamic part of what's going on today, which is different in many ways. Not that it wasn't that there were not the Hispanic community was not leading their own charges, because there was that, there were a lot of things happening in their communities as well then, right?
exactly, yes.
And so if we really embrace our history, the American history of what's going on in our country, then we can understand Jesse Jackson better. We can understand Al Sharpton better. We understand all the different configurations and the makeups of how those people looked, how they dressed, what they spoke about, how they lived, some of the traps that were set for them, the women, the men. I remember in
All of
Detroit,
it.
the mayor that started using crack, and the
Oh
woman
yeah.
Rashida who told on him. There were just so many
Well,
things.
Marion Barry out of DC. I look at things globally. I haven't thought like an American in 40 years because after traveling overseas, I have a global view. I don't have an American view because the American view, they want you to stay stupid. They want to stay, to keep you misinformed. They want to keep you ignorant, not knowing. Ignorance as far as not knowing. The other thing too is we lost that sense of love, of self-love, because okay, the music out of the 60s and 70s, we were in love with each other. The
Hmm.
songs were about love,
Yeah,
embracing.
yeah.
You're talking about um, Marvin Gaye, the
Stevie Wonder.
Temptations,
If
Stevie
you
Wonder.
come back
My
to me. That's
my
what
favorite
I love.
song still is "Hey Love."
Hey,
Yes, indeed. See,
love.
that's
All of
one.
that, all of that, all of that.
"Swept for You, Baby" by Smokey.
So I'm growing up in a household where my older siblings are singing these songs. They're competing in
That's right.
contests to sing these songs. So the messages were really getting out there. And that sweetness did kind of put safety in our community, because men and women were both romanticizing that unit of love.
We
And
were in love with
and
being in love.
yes, because it was probably the
You
first
know,
time I think we were freely expressing love.
and
That was the
and
time to go
nowadays,
for expression of the love. What do you all think? Do you think there was more expression of love back in the 60s and 70s and 80s? What happened in the 90s too? There seemed to be like we were moving ahead. And that's probably a lot of activism, in my opinion, wasn't really going on. I remember in the 90s, it was like you didn't feel like there was a thing called prejudice at that time. For me,
well, it
it
was strong.
required
I
it
still saw it.
required.
Well, I was in the corporate sector in the 80s and the 90s, so I saw a lot of the, I'll put it like this, opaque racism. You see how I phrased that, opaque
Mhm.
racism, because at that time they couldn't afford to be racist like they were in the 60s and 70s. They cloaked it better in the 90s going into the 2000s. It still was there, but people like me, I made them uncomfortable because work places like working at a bank, working in the insurance companies, um, the way that we got hired and fired, and then they would use some of us against each other because one of my favorite statements I tell people all the time is even Jesus had a Judas. So I think out of that era more than anything else, they used us against each other so that way they could say, well, see, is it in us? It isn't us that are firing you. Your own people are firing you now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, again, because of that drug culture, our morals, we started becoming morally bankrupt because honestly, that crack was like from the pit of hell. I never saw people act the way they acted with people that were strung out on that stuff.
They were making money so quickly. Dr. Latif says corporate success quieted college educated Black people.
Exactly.
Crack crushed the spirits of uneducated poor Black people, and that's how the movement was stifled. Now, now we're speaking of like 90s crack, 80s crack, 70s. Crack came out what, the 70s?
Well, crack was on the East Coast. It didn't hit Chicago. Was the last city to get crack. Crack was already, well, when I was in the Air Force in the 70s, it was on the West Coast because crack came out of freebasing. So it was huge on the East Coast. And even if you remember the song that Steely Dan talked about, people in the snow making snow angels because they were so high.
Oh my God, I never heard that.
Well, see, I'm a big Steely Dan fan.
Making snow angels because people, so snow referring to cold.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Wow.
You
so
know,
it also speaks to how the transformation of messaging was also included in other cultural music.
Oh yeah. Well, Steely Dan, the reason why a lot of the powers that be that didn't like Steely Dan because they spoke in metaphor. So if you weren't like a poet, say I'm a poet, I write poetry. So
okay, so I'm gonna have you do some of that.
You know, so musicians that were strongly metaphoric, I gravitated to them like a butterfly, like a moth going into the light, because they were smart enough to know that they had to write this song metaphorically to get their point across. Like Todd Rundgren, Hello, It's Me, the one that the Isley Brothers redid, but the original version was by Todd Rundgren. And Todd, his all right, that was a commercial success, the song, but then his second album was very political and they shut him down.
So I'm gonna kind of like go here real quick and say I need to go to break for just a quick minute, and then I'm gonna come right back. But I want to kind of touch on what you were saying about I lost my train of thought. I'll have it when we come back. Let me there's so much to this conversation. It's much more there. The entrails are much deeper and broader.
Lots of rabbit holes. Lots of rabbit holes.
And I think that's one of the things I always love about our conversation. There's a lot of rabbit holes that we get into in the conversation. So people are subject to what we would talk about if we were on the phone and talking, and if I ran into you or something, you know. And I love conversations like that because they are the meat of who we are, our behavior, what we seek out when we are with people and all of that. But just to take a quick break, please, people, we'll be right back. I just want to kind of give everybody an opportunity to know what the Female Solution is doing here. And so I'm going to display really quickly a couple of the sisters and people who are here on the Female Solution and give you some insight to who we are on the Female Solution. I'm saying all that, look, and I haven't even gotten there yet, but I'm trying. Here we go. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.
So we're back, and we have the fabulous man. This guy is a conversationalist, and he's doing some fantastic here in the city of Chicago for so many of us. I want to welcome back to the platform on the stage, Laurence Smith, the jazz lab guy. And that guy, the jazz promoter, the educator, the person who helps us to rise above the crux of what's happening to keep us down in the community of jazz. And there are others like yourself who are doing the work, who are longtime veterans on the radio and now on the internet, and who have been doing things. And I salute you for what you do. And to have this conversation with you, it's like, I understand you're a historian, and you have the chronicles. You have you came with the information. You came with this information. You really are a strong stereotype of what I would say a political and critical person in radio. And how has that been for you? Talk a little bit more about how you see what's on the ground in music and how that is affecting your life and the lives around you.
Okay, well, my musical journey really started with, everybody on my mom's side are jazz musicians. So if you're familiar with L.D. Young, that was my mom's second cousin.
Really?
And Sonny Cone, that played with Count Basie, he's originally from here. That's my mom's first cousin. And everybody on my dad's side were gospel. My grandmother literally raised Milton Brunson and the Thompson Community Singers. I sang with George Mays in the Voices of Praise, but I was in the studio at 15, 16 years old at Brunswick with Carl Davis and all those guys there, General Crook and all those guys. So my brother did shows with D. Clark and Major Lance back in the day. So music and really sports have been a big integral part of my life. I DJ'd at 16. I used to do club sets at Malcolm X College before I was old enough to be up in it, but because I was tall, I had a heavy voice.
You were that guy. I got you.
Yeah, you know.
Probably were after you too. I get it. I get the definition, your description. Yeah.
You know, so I'm gonna be nice.
Be yourself. We all grown, and if we're not, we're gonna get there. It's gonna be all right.
Yeah. But Richard Steele was my mentor that got me in the radio.
Wait a minute now. I think
actually, he's the one that got me over to HBK. He had been trying to get me over there about 20 years ago, but and you know, Bella knows that I worked at WGCR.US. That's when I started doing internet radio.
Mm-hmm.
And my show transitioned into the Jazz Laboratory, which I shortened into the Jazz Lab. Music for me has always been therapeutic, because for most people, music takes you to a place. It takes you to good times, bad times, overcoming things. So the structure of music must go back to the roots. It's got to go back there, because, you know, we can only go so long with saying all this misogynic stuff. We need to go back to respecting and protecting Black women. Because even the brother said, even Malcolm said it, he said, the most unprotected person in the world is the Black woman.
So in that you want to bring up us, the Black woman. And
it's not like a Black woman.
Well,
like a Black woman.
I want to say it, and I want to kind of get some logic and reasoning around why that continues to be said. Because people see Black women as pillars, strength, the grandma, the big mama, you know.
That scares people.
In fact, so much so that a lot of Black men who write movies and do plays imitate the Black big mama, right? And no matter what you do, but why is it so critical in your opinion? And not because you just love Black women, What, give me 1, 2, or 3 things that says, yes, we should be trying to protect Black women still. Why?
Women have always been the eyes and the influencer. They the man, and I've said this through the years, but it's biblically so. The man is the head of the house, but guess what? The woman is the influence. You could be the head of the house, but guess who turns the head? The woman always turns the head. So that's why it even says that a wise woman builds a house, a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. It didn't say a wise man, it said a wise woman. So that right there tells you that the enemy is going to attack you, because if the woman is toxic, he knows the nations are toxic. So it's been a major attack on Black women, especially, like I said, after the 70s going into the 80s. It The powers that be, that's why Black men couldn't get jobs. They would hire the Black woman because they know that the dynamic would shift. And if Black women were independent, now they're like, I don't need a man. Because our divorce rates, because again, the crack epidemic, our divorce rates went through the roof.
Okay, you just said something that I totally don't like hearing, because I have not ever had a conversation with any woman who was doing well that said she didn't need a man.
No, but I'm just saying it's a
set. But you said it, and so I have to address it.
Yeah.
When someone uses that phrase, a woman doesn't need a man because she's doing great, that's not what she means. What she means is she doesn't need to be oppressed by a man's inability to accept that she's had to climb up over all these things, tall buildings, fly with a cape, so she doesn't need a man to spirit her forward. Not that she doesn't need a man. I just need us to be clear about that. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And feminism.
No, I concur with that. I didn't say I agreed with the concept.
But you said it. And because you said it, it opens up a place for me to kind of come in and say that. I just need to define that we definitely need a man. And so when a man says he wants to protect us, then he has to think about what he's saying too, as he goes about protecting us.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem with that too is, I did a paper because I'm an econ major with a sociology minor. So I go into the behavior of people. I don't do the clinical part because it's cold and calculated and it's distant. The sociology part, the psychology, is the behavior patterns. And I want to know what's on people's minds. And if you could go and honestly have a talk about your background, how you were raised, then you can figure out how people have the comments or the mindsets that they have. Because, and I'll give you a prime example. Love James Brown, but because how James Brown was, how he was raised, he didn't have a strong view of women because his mother was a prostitute. And, I don't like men that put their hands on women. My father told me a long time ago, he said, if I ever find out that you put a hand on a woman, if I'm dead, I'm coming to get you.
I hear what you're saying about James Brown, but I never knew James Brown to say publicly anything anti-female. But I do know that he did beat up women. Now that became real because of behind the scenes, they love to come after you and tell you get all your business out. So in that end, I agree with you. You can't not say anything and then say what you really mean on the background.
Yeah.
I totally
because he's the first one to put hands on Tammy Terrell.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, he was the first one to put hands on Tammy Terrell before David Ruffin did. That's why, like I said, I'm a music historian. I get, because first of all, I'm not bug-eyed about stars. People that are superstars, right. You're flesh and blood like me.
Yeah, I get all that. Yeah.
All of us have a gift. It's just that some of us were more fortunate to get more exposure. But guess what? After those lights are off, after you leave that stage, guess what? You still got to be a person. You still, you still got to treat people right. You still have to, if you have children, raise your children. If your star life is bigger than your regular life, you're not really living. There are a lot of people, their whole lives are on the stage, and sadly, they don't know how to balance that with their everyday life.
Well, JJ said, I didn't know that about James Brown. A lot of people don't know a lot of things about the people who represent us in color and activism through music, movies, or whatever they do in their public life.
But they're human.
Yeah, but I think that's what the whole gossip trend is about, is to try to provide the human side of these people. But I love what Robert said here. He said that don't need a man stuff is a white concept that never proved true in the Black community. I don't know if it never proved true in the Black community, because it's the Black man who was complaining about a lot of stuff about Black women, but but I hear you. And I guess it didn't prove true. But to what extent are you saying, Robert, to what extent did it not prove true? Because were there more Black men and families that you knew and you grew up with that were not in that, didn't fit into that column?
Well, that dynamic. Because, okay, I'll give you a prime example. Because me and a childhood friend of mine, we go all the way back to the 3rd grade. He's a veteran like me. And we had a conversation, and we said, bruh, how many Black men in our age group stayed married to the person? How many people that stayed married? And we literally, I was like, wow, okay, I've been married twice. He was married twice. I got friends that got married once, and they were so traumatized with their first marriage, they never remarried. They shacked, but we lost a lot of our Black, our marriage dynamic in those 80s and 90s. Whereas even like now, a lot of our children, they don't want to be married. They don't want to make any commitments. And that's a sad thing, because, and again, even now, look at our young people. They don't even dance together. Remember, Bella, when we used to dance together, we used to slow dance.
Yeah. That's why stepping is still so loved. It's the coupling. It's the coming together. It's the camaraderie of bringing together these people, celebrating their spirits together, touching and being in the room together, having that sameness.
I couldn't wait till, we had our little after school little parties, little red light, blue light, parties in the basement, waistline parties and all of that.
I never attended a waistline party, but I remember my older sibling went to a waistline party, and she said, my sister said they would measure your waist, and
that's how much you paid to get in.
Yes, and that was part of my wanting to grow up. I wanted to be a part of the scene that my older siblings were in, and music was a fascination.
Yeah,
it was like the temperament of everything. And so I would hear my big sister sing. I come home from school, get off the school bus, and as I would come through the courtway, I could hear my big sister sitting in the window singing Diana Ross, and my brothers would be singing and fighting over who was the best group. Was it the Temptations or
the Dramatics or Blue Magic, and
right. And my mother was playing all kinds of music in the house. Music was like the temperament and the beat in my house. It was
everything. That's why I said everything.
And you could go in Black homes and they'd be cooking their music, cooking their food, and you'd hear
cleaning their house,
soul and gospel. That's right. We live by our music.
Yeah.
What are we doing today that's similar? Now I'll tell you right now, my children play their mute. John, especially, he's here on the today. I dropped him off in college, and he put down his collection of music, and all of a sudden I started seeing Donny Hathaway and all kind of people that I'm like, son, when did you get into all of this music? I was in shock. And to this day, not only is he a dynamic singer, but he is really a carbon copy of what we're talking about. You know, cooking and singing and doing
But see,
everything.
you were one of the blessing with you, Bella, is that you stayed true to the music. And just because your children got caught up in what their buddies listened to, guess what? They still came back home. Because look at you talking about what he's listening to now.
Oh,
Because Donnie was my hero. Donnie Hathaway was my hero. Actually, my favorite album to this day, and I still wear it out, that album with him and Roberta Flack. You Got a Friend. Um, Be Real Black for me. That's a fabulous song. So,
Be Real Black for me. Say, who was that?
on that album with Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack.
I now got to go back and listen to it. I probably have heard it, but don't know it as a popular tune that I enjoy. I'm gonna go back and listen to it.
I see. I'm that dude. I sneak in those kind of songs. You know, I like to provoke thought. So
Well, my son John was singing Donny Hathaway, "Someday We'll All Be Free," and that's how I got into it. And it's that first line. He says, "Hang on to the world."
Yeah.
Right? Oh my God.
As it spins around.
As it spins around.
Yeah.
Just don't let that spin.
Get you down.
Things are moving fast, right?
Yeah.
Hold on tight and you will last. Keep your self-respect.
Your sense of pride.
Your manly pride.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the singing that mattered. And here we go. Asada Say Sparrow by Marvin Gaye.
Yep.
Look, music stabilized us. It brought us together.
Oh, yeah.
It gave us reason to have hope. And it inspired us at home, in church, in the grocery stores, in our cars. Radio is a personality. It didn't just have personalities. In fact, today, even when we get in the car, we can stream, but it don't have nothing on no doggone radio.
Oh no, I make all my own mixes. I'm a dinosaur. I have a CD player in my car. I make all my own mixes. I have all my vocals. I have my vocals where I do my blue magic and my main ingredients and all of that, the emotions, and then I do all my jazz.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm not gonna get what I have on those streaming services. And then not only that, they just slap stuff together. They don't put any thought into it. It's just, all right, we're gonna put this song out here, we're gonna put that song out here. Don't insult me like that. I'm a music lover.
Yes, you are. But you're not just a music lover, you are a music historian.
Yes.
And you are the keeper of the gate. You have the key. And we're not even gonna have enough time to get into everything else that we're gonna do. So I'm gonna bring you right back. So we can have some more of this here soulful, heart spinning. Let's break it down. Music. I mean, I'm feeling lively and upbeat and excited for music. I always say that music is my cool factor. I'm that chick.
Oh yeah.
You really are that man. You really are.
Well, again, because it was such a huge part of my life. For me, it was music and sports, because I know you probably don't know this, but I was in the White Sox farm system. I was a baseball player. I played basketball, but I was a better baseball player. And I was like 2 months away from the big show till I tore up my knees.
Wow.
And
that had to be rough.
Oh, it devastated me because I was a bad man. I played right field. I had a cannon. You didn't go first to third on
But
me.
you went from running bases and hooping and all that to becoming a dynamic soul messenger on the radio, an inspiration in the schools and with the veterans that you do advocate for. So you dropped one ball kind of went out into the field and it didn't get recovered, but you certainly never stopped playing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I still feel that I owe the community. I'm a spoke in the wheel. There are many spokes in the wheel, and you got to have those spokes to keep that wheel rolling. You're one of the spokes, Bella. You're
Thank
one
you.
of the spokes. Just so you know.
I love that I can take music as a transformative measure and use it to bring our community together. And I'm going to say this because we only have a few minutes, and I just want to let you have that too in these last 3-4 minutes. But my whole purpose that I came to understand in music was not more so much about me becoming a celebrity or getting rich. When I realized the disparity that was placed upon me in understanding that the dynamics of a lack of real support monetarily from this city, that we create all these dynamic reasons why people come in and out and come into our room to listen to us, it just wasn't there.
No.
And I said to myself, whatever I can do to help push that ship forward, to give a foundation so other people like myself can enjoy the luxury of singing when they have a desire to do so, to tell their story when they have a desire to do so, right?
Yes.
To make that real for my contemporaries to sit next to me and have comfort and I to them, right? To show love in a community where DJs like yourself and others who were playing our music, who were making sure that people understood we existed. And that's who you are. You represent the existence of our lives.
Well, I want to create a safe space because there are many aspects right now in our lives for mental health. We need a safe space. Music has always been my safe space. It has saved me multiple times for my dark periods in my life. So we got to have it. We got to have it for our young people. We got to have it for our grandchildren. We got to have it for everybody that's coming behind us. We got to leave a music legacy because they're trying to kill it off of us. We got more white people listening to blues than our young people. Our young people don't listen to our music from the 60s and 70s because sadly a lot of their parents didn't play it. Because I look at our children now. Look at how their parents are and what their parents listen to. You're talking about we have a segment of grandparents now that are in their 30s. So if they didn't listen to the Marvin Gaye and everything they listened to, sadly, not all of them, but enough of them, they listen to sampled music. Because my youngest children, they're in their late 30s. Well, they're actually going into, one is 39 and 40. Those are my two youngest. But when my youngest was a teenager, she would come home and bring stuff to me, and I'm like, okay, that's Gladys Knight, okay? And she was like, dang, Dad, is any of our music original? And I was like, no. And, most of the stuff that you're listening to are samples from the music from the 60s and 70s. So we have an obligation, and even Jesus said it, for those that have ears, let them hear. We got to put it out there, and it's not going to reach everybody, but guess what? We're obligated to reach the ones that need to hear.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to come up with some disc jockey kind of parallels in my conversation to kind of close this piece out. We are speaking to what is the real deal, not just the occupation of a seat to play music or to become a celebrity, a disc jockey. They said a jockey. I'm out of time. I'm over my hour. I'm going to bring you back. But Laurence, thank you so much for defining what being a jazz promoter, a jazz innovator, a jazz advocate. You've done it all. And thank you for supporting our community. I'm going to have you back real soon. March is here. You know what's coming up.
Well, you know, my birthday is March 23rd. So.
Oh, then there we are. We're going to have you here for your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Look, every one of you who have contributed any part to this conversation today, I want to say thank you. All of you are dynamic, wonderful coffee breakers, innovators, and people who move our community. I know your voice means something. That's why I make sure that I put your comments up on this screen. And they're having their own conversation in the comments while we're talking. And I'm going, oh, they're talking to each other. You know, so I love that too. And I just want to say you're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much. I hope that I have provided some service to you and your spirit and what you do. It's been really wonderful being here with all of you today. I got to get out of here. I'm over my hour and I hate it. I don't want to go. We're out of here, okay? Have a great, great, great weekend, everybody. And don't forget, I have a show coming up. And that show is going to be at St. Charles Borromeo Hall. I'm going to have it up in social media. You can check it out. It's free. You should come and see what your girl doing and support the products and the people that I support, because I'm always thinking about how we can continue to put our hands together like this and become one. It's been love. Love you all. I'm Senabella. I'm out.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, zhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiabonga. Senegal, jaref. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.